Sunday. Happy last Sunday in the month of April of 2024. I am Coach Yolanda. I am so happy to be here. There's some new things going on that I want to share. I welcome everyone watching on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Hey, Instagram, you will time out after an hour. However, last week you didn't seem to, so maybe that is not a thing anymore. I don't know. I used to get a notification that Instagram will only allow streaming for 60 minutes. Let's see what happens. Hi, Miss Marissa Price. The wonderful Marissa Price is here. How are you? I trust that everything is well or on its way to being well wherever you are. I am so excited because it finally feels like spring and summer. Here in the little tiny state of Delaware, it's going to get up to 80 something degrees. Right now, it's about 73 degrees. I stepped out for a little bit because this is the time of year when I like being outside more than I like being inside. And so I am dying to get back outside after our time together. Today, we're going to review. And I know I told everybody that we were going to have a list of things that you were going to have to get. We'll do that next week. I feel like it's more gentle to ease into that for the month of May. But today we're going to review. We're going to talk about what we've been talking about since the beginning of the year. Hopefully, we will have an opportunity to chat about whatever may be coming up for you, whatever questions. Happy Sunday. Catching me live for a change. I love it. I love it. I look different. I had an experience yesterday where I knew I wanted to get my hair cut because it was getting significantly long. Typically, I don't have any hair at all. I like when I can shave it myself and just go bald. But I've been toying with different looks. And so I go to the barber yesterday and he's like, "Well, what do you want to do?" I was like, "Just do whatever." I forgot to tell him, keep a little bit on top just in case I want to do something, like get braids or whatever. I forgot to mention that. And so he cuts, and I could tell he was cutting all my hair off, cutting all my blonde off. And I didn't say anything. I was like, just go with it. Let's see what happens. And he told me to look. I was like, "Is that all me? Is that all? Is all that gray my gray?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's yours." I said, "Well, the last time I saw my natural hair color, it wasn't this gray, and this is what I have been waiting for. I have been waiting for my hair to all turn gray. I would prefer for it to all be gray, but I like the salt and pepper, and I'm loving it. And the best thing is my man loves it, so I love it. We love it. So look at all that gray. It doesn't even the camera I don't think does it justice. Look at all of it. Like I had a little bit of gray here, a little bit, but this is getting to where I want it to be. And so I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for, embracing getting older. I remember when I was younger, and that was such a thing for me. I didn't want to be old, didn't want to be old. And now all I talk about is being old. And I don't want to be 43, 23. I want to be 53. I want to be 63. I want to be 73. I want to be 83. I want to be 93. However many decades the Creator allows me to have, I want to see them and see what life has in store for me. And so I'm embracing the gray. I'm embracing getting older. It's fun. It's fun getting older and getting to a place in life where you are comfortable in every skin that you are in. So, oh, thank you, my love. Thank you. I always say when a woman cuts her hair, watch out. So I'm excited because whether you are all familiar or aware or not, we are on the other side of so many different energetic cleanses, I like to call them. We've had retrogrades, we've had the eclipse, we've had so many solar flares. Like we really are on the other side of a lot of global cleansing. there was a mini, not, I don't want to say mini because any earthquake is should be taken seriously. There was another earthquake on the East Coast, and I'm sure somewhere else in the world yesterday. We had one a couple of weeks ago. Like, Mother Earth is cleansing herself. And I hope that we are all paying attention. You may have felt energetically very tired over the last couple of weeks, very scrambled, not very settled, not very grounded. Well, it's difficult to be grounded when Mother Earth is also going through a cleanse. And so I feel hopeful about the next couple of weeks. And it doesn't mean that she won't go through another cleanse, because there is always need for a cleanse. Even for me, on one of the days last week, I lit a fire outside. I threw so much sage in that fire, and I was like, this is not enough. I need some other herbs. I threw some other herbs on that fire. I just felt like the entire world needed to be sage. And I'm sure my neighbor smelt it, because it was a healthy amount of sage. And I think I also had some High John root, the conqueror. Like, there was a lot thrown in that fire, because I felt like I needed it. I felt like we all needed it. And so hopefully you are doing whatever you need to do to take care of yourself after a cleanse, after restoration, drinking your water, taking your rest. On Friday, I slept from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I have never slept that long, I don't think, in my entire life, but I needed it. I needed it. My body was telling me that I needed it. By Friday, my blood pressure, and I'm not one to live with high blood pressure, but on Friday and even yesterday, my blood pressure was so high. I was like, you got to go lay down somewhere. And I want to say thank you to my beloved and grandbaby girl, because they really did help in reducing my level of stress this weekend, just being in their presence. And it's not that they're the only people I love, but those two people just do it for me. They just do it for me. Grandbaby girl just left here, and she just, ah, she rights a whole lot of wrongs. If humanity is out here doing some crazy stuff, I only need to be in her presence for 5 minutes and I forget all of it. So I'm grateful. And I'm hoping and trusting that wherever you are in your life, you have those experiences and opportunities to feel that in the presence of another being. Do not take that for granted. If you know, in the presence of other people, your entire nervous system starts to rest, your brain starts to feel at ease. And it's not that you are using these other entities, these other beings. It's recognizing the power that we all have to not even say anything, to just be in someone's presence, and they feel like safety, security, love, um, adoration. Like, you feel it without a word spoken. And so I trust that that is something that we all achieve for ourselves and in our relationships with other people. Okay. Miss Audrey, I owe you an email. I read it yesterday, but I did not have the brain power to respond to it. I owe you an email. Oh, thank you, my love. Listen, I have had every hairstyle known to man. I've had locks. Of course, I've worn weaves. I've done braids, and most of those things I did myself. I'm not one to spend. I don't like spending a lot of time in places where I'm not doing something. So I'm not one to have ever gone to, a hair salon on a regular basis. Although I will say that this particular barbershop that I went to yesterday may be part of my self care routine, because the atmosphere was just so pleasing. Sometimes as a woman, going into a male dominated space, you don't always feel comfortable. You don't always feel welcomed. And that's also one of the reasons why I was doing a lot of my hair management myself. But this one yesterday felt good. There was a sister in there. Let me tell you, there was a sister in there when he first cut off all of my hair. He's like, okay, she's going to shampoo and condition your scalp for you. And I was like, what? What? Oh my goodness. I don't know the last time somebody has washed and conditioned my hair. I don't care if you don't even need somebody to wash and condition your hair. Do that for yourself. Have someone else shampoo and condition your hair. It just feels like a loving act. It really, really does. And I'm so appreciative of that sister yesterday. She has no idea how even that short amount of time with the shampoo, the condition, and then she, put me under the hair dryer, what little hair that I have. Like she took care of me and it felt good. It felt good. Listen, and I used to have a gentleman that would come to the house. My living situation is different now, so he can't come to the house and cut my hair anymore. But oh my gosh, I've always preferred to have men do my hair. And that's no shade to women. It's just I've had more success with men doing my hair than women, but I haven't always liked the environments that I needed to go in to get my hair done. But yeah, I love it. I like it. So we're going to keep it. We're staying with this. No more harshness with the bleaching and all of the other stuff. If it's not this, it's going to be bald, but I like this. So we're going to probably stick with this. Hey, Alicia, the artist is with us. Dee's with us. Hello, hello. Hey, everyone. And again, we are on the other side of an energetic cleansing. So I hope that we are taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And we're going to talk about that before we jump in next month into the real deal nitty gritty. What do we do with all of this information? So from January to now, we have been gathering, hopefully, we've been gathering all of this information about where is our power going. Knowing where your power is going is one of the things that you can do for yourself to live from a place of power because we have it. We may be telling ourselves that, oh, I'm not powerful in this area. I'm not powerful in that. You are powerful in all areas. If you were not, you would not be in existence. There is a certain amount of power that is necessary for you to come into existence. And so here we are with all this power, and it's going into places because energy cannot die. It can be transferred, it can be, placed in other. We need to know where our energy is going, where our power is going. And so from January to now, we've been looking at our physical arena, our spiritual arena, our mental arena, and our emotional arena, because those four parts make up who we are. You are mental energy, emotional energy, spiritual energy, and physical energy. And they are all connected. How you feel physically will manifest in your mental and emotional, and vice versa. How you look at yourself or how you are connected spiritually will show up in all areas of your life. And so we are going to talk about all of those four areas in no particular order of importance because they are all important. But we know as humans, the physical arena is one that we pay attention to the most. Um, Not by accident. It's just we are physical beings. We are physical beings. And so it's easier for us sometimes to determine what is going on with us physically. And so the questions that we have been asking ourselves is where is the bulk of my time, attention, and focus going when it comes to these particular parts of my life? And so, way back in January, we started asking ourselves questions. Hopefully, those questions got answered or transferred into a journal of some sorts. If you are like me, you have more than one of these. I got this one, I got another one. They're all over the place. Sometimes they are slips of paper because things come to me and I may not have my journal handy, but I still want to write it down. So, hopefully, you have been documenting some of this exploration, the self exploration into who you are and telling the truth. Remember, a little graphic when I said what was going to be required because we're gaining clarity that we had to be honest, that we are looking at being accountable for what we discover. There's going to be, has to be, a level of commitment and consistency because how else are you gathering data if you're not doing it consistently? Your data's going to be off If you're only doing it when you feel bad, or you're only doing it when, you're feeling good, or your baseline, so to speak, it's not going to be where you would like it to be if you're not consistent and committed to the practice of documenting some of the answers to the questions that we've been asking ourselves week by week by week. Of course, you are going to have a level of self awareness. Sometimes that will take practice, because if you've been looking at yourself through a particular set of eyes and all of a sudden you are now using a completely different type of vision, it may take some practice before you come so self aware that you see yourself clearly without criticism and without judgment. I still do it. I know you still do it, when you'll look at yourself like, why are you doing that? That just don't make no sense. That's not the level of self-awareness I'm talking about. I'm talking about that self-awareness where there is a neutrality, where you are not good, bad, or you're just looking at what is going on. And of course, I added on surrender, because for a lot of us control freaks, surrendering to this practice takes time, which is why we took 3 months. And you may even have to take the rest of your life. Hopefully, this is the foundation that you start to build in terms of working from a place of power, where you can say to yourself on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, I have an understanding of why I did what I did, or why I said what I said, or why this is showing up in my life. And I'm prepared to take a look at it, examine it, not judge it, not criticize it, and not make myself feel worse for it, but to learn from it. To learn from it. Okay? Now, as we move along in this year, other things will be required, but let us not forget honesty, accountability, commitment, consistency, self awareness, and surrender. Let's not just throw these to the wayside like, okay, I did that. I was honest for the first 3 months of this year. I don't need to practice that anymore. We will consistently need to practice these principles, because don't we all want to live with a sense of clarity in our lives? We don't want to feel like, we're in that survival mode where we're living from moment to moment, and everything is surprising and scaring us. Every time something comes up in your life, it's a crisis, um, because you haven't been living from a place of power. You've been living from a place of uncertainty and fear. And so everything that happens knocks you down. Instead of, I'm firmly planted and grounded in the foundation of who I am and what my power center is. So if something happens, I can look at it, not allow it to take me under, but I can face it in a way which I feel good about. Even if that thing may knock you on your back, at least you're clear about why you're on your back. If I'm going to be knocked down, I at least want to be very clear about what knocked me down, how it got me, where it hit me from, so that it doesn't happen over and over and over again. I was just, how Facebook loves to bring up memories from 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And sometimes it'll bring up a memory of something that you may have been experiencing. And you're like, I was going through the same thing 5 years ago. What the heck is going on in my life? When you start to see cycles of the same thing, maybe the players are different, maybe the circumstances are slightly different, but the energy of it seems to be the same. There's just a recurring theme that seems to happen every 3 years, every 4 years. And you're like, you may not be aware of it if you're not paying attention to it, if you're just judging it or criticizing it. If you can take a step back and look at it through the eyes of neutrality, and you're like, oh my, here we are again. I'm having a similar experience with someone different, but the energy of it is very familiar to me. Maybe I need to take a look at why this is reoccurring in my life. Why does this consistent theme always show up even when I think I've resolved it? Here it is again. Here I find myself displaced. Here I find myself frustrated. Here I find myself in a place that I thought that I had healed. And so many of us, and I know I, practice this all of the time, We think we're healed of something because we're not in it, or we're not with that person, or we're not in that job, or we're not in those circumstances, or they're so far away from us that it seems like a distant memory and we think we've healed from it. It's very easy to fool yourself into thinking, oh, I've healed that part of me because I no longer have to engage with those people, those places, and those things, until it shows up in a different form. And you're like, gosh, darn it, I thought I healed that. I thought I was done doing that thing that particular way. And here I am saying similar things, doing similar things, feeling similar feelings. That is why we need to take a level of self awareness that doesn't make us feel bad, that doesn't have us in a shame spiral, that doesn't make us feel guilty or regret, but allows us to say, okay, this is coming up again. I need to take a look at why. And maybe, just maybe, I've learned enough from it the first, the second, the third, and the fourth time to where I can do it differently so that the outcome looks different. Okay. I am so glad that you are here with us on this Sunday. You quit. Today I clocked in at, woo, honey. I'm so proud of you. I am so proud of you, Celeste, because you chose yourself today. You listened. You listened to, and it's like, how much of a power drain do I have to experience before I push the button and say, enough is enough? It's like when a tub is filled up with water and you press the button for the, or hit the lever for the water to go down the drain, go down the drain, go down the drain, and you're watching it, and you're like, pretty soon all this water is going to go and there won't be anything left. At what point will you stop and say, you know what, I don't need to sit here and watch myself being drained this way? I can put a stop to it. So I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy for you. Yeah, Marissa's like, yes, put yourself first. um there is nothing like you identifying what is necessary for your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being. Imagine if we would respond to ourselves on all levels, not just one. Not just saying, well, I'm physically tired, I'm going to take a rest. What if we said to ourselves, you are mentally tired, take a rest. You are emotionally tired, stop doing that or stop engaging in that. You are spiritually tired, you need to find something else. I'm so happy for you. Look, everybody's happy for you. Yes, 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 yes. We love it. We love it. And hopefully, it will encourage and inspire someone else to do the same. If Celeste was brave enough to choose herself, then I have to be brave enough to choose myself. I have to be brave enough to say, that's it. You don't get enough of me. I had to do that on Friday. I knew my blood pressure was high because of not just the way I felt, but I could literally feel the blood like coursing through my legs, like pulsing through my legs. I'm like, you better go home. This is not good. Like, what are you doing? Whatever it is that you are doing will wait until you come back to it on Monday. You may not have that chance if you don't get up out of here. If you don't go home and take care of yourself, you might not have the opportunity to finish what it is that you feel like you have to finish. Oh my gosh, why do we allow ourselves to get to that point? And that's part of the reason why I wanted us to take 3 months to take a look at where our power was going. And so let's start with the physical arena. And please chime in with whatever you have discovered about yourself. I got some notes on all of the different arenas and what I have discovered about myself in terms of my physical being and where a lot of my power is going. I'm going to put another slide up. Um, I really should change the colors because that yellow one, and it's yellow for a reason. It's yellow because it corresponds to the energy center or the chakra, the color. But I don't like that yellow. That yellow is. But let's start with physical. So physical doesn't just mean your health, right? Your physical health. It's your body, but it's also means the environment, the places and spaces that you inhabit, your behavior, the things that you are doing, the things that you are engaged in, your actions, your habits. So if you have taken a look at where your power is going physically, what did you discover? What do you now know that you may not have been consciously aware of now that you've been taking an examination and self awareness of where your power is going physically? Oh, Marissa says she learned that she's recreating some of the cycles you're trying to get. Listen, if it wasn't for that Facebook notification of this is what you were doing 10 years ago, I'm like, well, that looks like what I'm doing right now. What the heck? It happens. It absolutely happens. And it's my belief that the reason it happens is because it's such a crucial lesson for you to learn during your time here that it's going to keep on coming up and keep on coming up like, hey, hello, here's a lesson for you. You may even have learned how to deal with it in a particular way that has served you well, but you are a different being every single moment. And so it may require a different you, even if the circumstance is similar to something that you've gone through before. So if you are aware that you are recreating some of the cycles, maybe it was with one person and now you recognize you're recreating it with someone else, it's a good lesson. As I always say, it's good information. The fact that you are even aware of it puts you ahead of the game. It's like, okay, if I'm aware of something, I can't ignore it. I can't act like I didn't see it. I can't act like I'm not accountable and responsible for dissecting it and seeing, why am I recreating this? Why is this coming back up? And it's not a punishment. It's not because somebody dislikes you or the universe is saying you need to be punished for something. It absolutely is to teach you something. It may even be one of the reasons that you are in existence. And isn't that a beautiful thing to think that the universe is so considerate that it would give you a divine opportunity to learn exactly what you came here to learn? Thank you, universe. That's the way that I have to look at it anyway. You know, a victim mindset may make one feel that they're being punished, or I'm just not smart enough to have learned the lesson, which is why I keep recreating it. A conqueror's mindset would say, oh, you think a lot of me, so you keep bringing me through this because you want me to be at mastery level. I got it. You think so much of me, universe, that you want me to be at the mastery level of this particular lesson. Well, game on. Let's do it. Let's go through it. I'm so glad you did. I am so glad you did, because by the time your body is sick, you are in the overwhelm. And sometimes that's the only time that we as humans will respond to something, is when we are physically ill. D says, you realize that you may not be as nurturing as you thought. The cycles are definitely trying to reoccur, and I'm being forced to choose different or stay stagnant. Let me tell you how much I love that word stagnant, because when you hear it, doesn't it motivate you to want to get into action? Because it just don't even sound like a nice word. So when you tell yourself you are stagnant, it is a call. It is a battle cry that something different needs to happen. And so I'm so grateful that you are at that level of self awareness that you're like, we ain't moved a bit. We need to do something. We need to do something. We need to make some moves. Oh, I love that word stagnant, because it's something that my mother used to say, and I never liked the way that she said it, and it always made me feel like, yeah, that's nothing I want to be. I don't want to be stagnant, like stagnant water. I don't want to be like a stagnant person. Like I hear it and I'm like motivated to want to do something. And so if you've been taking a look at your physical arena and you recognize your power, because it takes energy to remain stuck in a place. to remain stagnant because you got to convince yourself of a whole lot of stuff. So let's say you really want to, I don't know, I'm just going to arbitrarily use something. You want to move the furniture in your bedroom, but then your brain starts to say, well, it's too heavy, or you don't have the time, or why would you need to do that? You start to come up with all of these reasons of why things need to remain the same. You're comfortable with it. Now you got to learn a whole new way to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. It really takes a lot of energy to remain in the same place. If you've ever seen a tree fighting the wind and it's bending and moving, you know how much energy is being exerted by those roots trying to stay in the ground? Think of yourself in that way. If you are taking a look at your life, taking a look at where you are, who you are, and how you've been moving, and you recognize, I haven't moved a bit, you're still exerting a lot of energy. And wouldn't it be great to transfer that energy into something else, into some motivation, some inspiration, something else? And so it's not enough to say, I have been stagnant in this area of my life. You got to figure out why. What has the monologue sounded like? What is the motivation? Because everything is a choice. And if you've been motivated to not move, you need to know why. What are you afraid of? And how much energy are you putting into that fear? And how senseless it could wind up being when you take a look at it, not to criticize or judge it, but to say, wow, I have been fooling myself that I'm not smart enough. I have been fooling myself that I don't have the money, or I've been fooling myself into believing these things that I need to believe that have kept me stagnant and unable to move through a particular phase in my life. I will say that I have been stagnant in terms of my physical health. I have come up with every reason under the sun as to why I can't do one thing or another in terms of exercising, even to the point where I believe unconsciously I have been hurting myself. Now, I haven't been hurting myself on purpose, but I've been really clumsy. Remember, y'all, I don't know if I told y'all, I broke my toe. I've done all of these physical things were going on. And I kept saying, what is going on with me that I keep having this experience of hurting myself or finding myself being hurt? And so then I get to say, well, I would go for a walk, to get some of this weight off, but my toes broke, so I can't do that. Or I could say, I would do this thing, but I can't do that because my hip hurt. All of these reasons why these roadblocks are now in my life because I believe that there was an unconscious choice that I didn't want to exercise. And I need to get to the bottom of it. What is it about moving my body that I'm so resistant about? And I know part of it is if I lose the weight and gain it back again, I'm going to be so disappointed. So why even bother with trying to lose the weight? And the first time not the first time, but I lost a lot of weight at the beginning of this year because I was sick. And I was like, woohoo, I didn't even have to do anything. I didn't even have to exert any energy. And I lost all this weight. And then I gained it all back. And so because I could see myself gaining it all back, I was like, you are sabotaging yourself. Unconsciously sabotaging myself. And if it wasn't for me being very honest, being very accountable, and writing down what's going on with me physically, I would have been fooling myself like there's nothing I can do to lose this weight. And how many of us have gotten to that feeling where we've just given up, where we've just told ourselves there's nothing I can do? Ah, yes. Yes, there's always choices and decisions going on in this head, and sometimes it can be a battle. The minute you come up with one good reason to do something, you can come up with three reasons as to why it's not good and convince yourself. And that takes a lot of power. It takes a lot of energy. And if we're not honest about it, about what we're doing, what we're aware of, and how we're acting, We could fool ourselves into this sense of, well, I'm doing what I can do. And maybe you're not. You know you're more than that. You know you are. And I don't want to belittle anyone's experience. I'm only speaking about myself. And this is what I know about Yolanda. Losing weight and being healthy is not difficult for me. I make it difficult. Who's buying the food? I am. It's not like I'm waiting for somebody else to buy healthy food. I buy the food. I buy the snacks that I know I'm not supposed to be eating. I make the choice, even though I got 20 million water cups, water jugs. I make the choice not to fill that thing up at night, take it with me in the morning, and drink the amount of water that I know I'm supposed to. I'm making those choices. But let somebody come along with something sweet. I'm making a choice to eat it. I'm not making the choice to say, no, I know I can't have that. And unless I'm willing to take accountability for that, I could be gaslighting myself into believing that I'm doing everything that I can and the weight is just not coming off. I am making choices that don't support the very thing that I say that I want. I know that when I feel better physically, my mental and emotional state of being are also better. I also know that I'm still unlearning unhealthy habits from my past, which say in order for me to gain or get something, it's got to be hard. And so I'm telling myself, if I'm not out there running a 5K, then I'm not really exercising. When all I got to do is take a nice leisurely walk, a couple of times couple of times a week. I'm not trying to drop 30 pounds in 2 weeks. I would just like to be healthier. I'm not caring about getting into some jeans that I wore 10 years ago or wearing a dress, even though I do have this dress that I've been holding on to, y'all. It is so gorgeous. It would take a lot for me to get back in that dress. But it's not the only gorgeous dress that exists. I should give that thing away and stop keeping it as a barrier of you ain't never gonna get back in that dress. You're not going to do what needs to be done because in order for me to get back in that dress, I'm going to have to do some heavy duty exercising, getting up at the crack of dawn type stuff. And I know I'm not going to do it. I know I'm not going to do it. And I don't want to do it. However, I have a beautiful park right behind my house. I went with a walk this morning with grandbaby girl. She was on her bicycle. There are things that I could integrate in my life that wouldn't cause any stress, any strain, wouldn't cost any money. I wouldn't have to go buy any equipment, get a subscription. I wouldn't have to do any of those things in order for me to live a healthier lifestyle, which is going to help me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. I know that. I am not an idiot. I know that. And yet I am choosing to ignore it. And I know for me, the root of that is so deep because I believe that in order to get particular things, it's got to be hard. You got to sweat bullets. You got to, I'm an army brat. I'm a military baby. And so I have that running theme in my head that in order to gain anything, it's got to be a huge sacrifice. And so then I get to tell myself, well, I just don't have time to make that sacrifice. And that's not true. It's not true. And that is what I am now honest about and have to live my life through that consciousness of power. Things don't have to be hard, Yolanda, in order for you to get the things that you desire. They don't have to be hard. They don't have to be hard. Alicia says, yes, we all I think, have learned that lesson through different mediums, through different things. Religion will also support that. That in order for you to get something, it's got to be a huge sacrifice. You got to be putting the lamb on the slab. In order for things to really move in your life, there's got to be this huge, hard thing. And that's not true. Or if it's not some huge sacrifice, then you didn't earn it and therefore you don't deserve it. That's the other lie that we live with. Man sees first his failure or successes, his joy or sorrow, before it swings into visibility from the successes in his own imagination. Child, that's a word. And we have been programmed to see it that way, to live through that energy. And this is what we're talking about this year. How do we change that narrative so that we take back the power, that things don't have to be hard? Things don't have to look like that. I don't have to set myself up with this scale that no one else created but my own mind that says you are a success or you are a failure. You are doing well or you're not. You are succeeding. We set these things up for ourselves. Right. I got a hula hoop and I love to hula hoop. I'm ready to dance and I'm like, see, you can't go out dancing because your toe is broke. It's like, girl, how many exercises are available for people with who have no mobility from the waist down? I could be in the chair getting it on, burning some calories. I have no excuse. There really isn't one. There really, really isn't one. But we create it. We, for sure, for absolute sure. It's like if you didn't bleed for that, baby, you didn't earn it, and you don't deserve it. Easy and fun is always going to be better. And I see so many people like no shade to the people who do get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym. If that's what you love to do, I salute you. I can't say that I've ever been one of those people. Now there were times where I get up 5 in the morning, I'd go to the track and I would walk. So I can't say that I've never been one of those people. I didn't enjoy it. I did it because I felt like that was the only way that I was going to be able to get some success, to see what I needed to see. But I also recognized that there was a time when I got up every morning for 3 months for the crack of dawn, even when it was cold and I don't like the cold. And I did this and I did that. And I didn't see any results. And that was further ammunition for me to say, see, this ain't going to work for you. You're going to have to figure out some other way. And this is not to say that other ways are better or worse. I'm saying individual choices in our life really need to be individual. Just because other people have found success the way that they've done it doesn't mean that you will find success that way. You have to have such an immense connection to your own internal power that you know what works for you. And we right now are under this phenomenon where if people see it working for others, they think, well, if I do that, then it'll work for me and my life will be better. Or how many times do people say, I saw this on TikTok or I saw this online and it worked for that person, so maybe it will work for me. Or so and so made me buy it. Or such and such said I should do it. No one is going to be a greater authority over your life except for you. You've lived it, you know it, you have the information that you need. You can figure it out for yourself. You don't need now, even though I'm sitting here trying to tell people, what to do every Sunday. I'm what I'm actually hoping is happening is that I'm facilitating. I am facilitating. I can't tell you how to change your life, fix your life. I can't tell you how to do any of those things. You have to do that. I can supply you with tools, experience, knowledge, wisdom, but ultimately, you will figure it out for yourself. I'm telling you that is your greatest power. The greatest power that you have is that you know yourself better than anyone else. And I don't care how many people will try to tell you different. I know who you are. I know what you need. You know, but you will not be able to know if you're not honest, if you're not committed, if you're not consistent, if you're not willing to surrender to the truth, if you're not willing to ask yourself not even difficult questions, but challenging questions that challenge the way that you are currently thinking. So if we're looking at ourselves physically, tell the truth. Are you where you want to be? Do you feel comfortable in your own skin? Can you imagine walking around? Let's say you're walking around in an outfit that you purchased, that you thought, okay, I love it. I'm going to wear it and I'm going to wear it all the time. And then you put it on and you're uncomfortable in it. You can't stand it. You're pulling at it, tugging at it. You're wondering what other people are thinking about you in this outfit. That's you in your skin. We getting to the place where we are comfortable in our own bodies is a lot of work because we got a whole lot of messages that are trying their hardest to tell us you should not feel comfortable with who you are. Come buy this hair, come buy this dress, come buy this waist trainer, come buy all of these things that are going to make you feel better about yourself instead of you just sitting in the mirror and saying I love you as you are right here right now. No matter what. No matter what. No matter what it looks like today, tomorrow, or whenever. I love me. That's how I felt yesterday when when my hair got cut off. I was like, I said to him, I said, it's only hair. If I don't like it, I'll just shave it off and do something else. But I said, I want to at least have the experience of seeing what who I am and am I comfortable enough to sit with it and say, this is what we're doing. And I'm so grateful that I was like, I'm gonna go right home and dye my hair again because I don't like it. I don't want to send that message to myself that any part about me that I don't like it. Look what beloved says. He says you look fabulous, and that is all right with me. Even if beloved said he didn't like it, and there are parts about it he does not like. I have parts in my hair he does not like them. I like them, and if I like it, I know he loves it. And so getting to a place where you are comfortable with your physical self doesn't mean that there aren't things that you don't want to change or you are engaging in activities that change your physical appearance. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about if you are uncomfortable with your physical being, meaning the way you are health wise, meaning the places that your body has to go into, and Marissa Price was here last Sunday talking about leaving toxic work situations. There are so many of us who have to walk into a building or a place to, even if you're working from home, if you don't like the place that you spend the most of your time and you draw your income from, that takes a toll on your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. But if you know that you have to drive yourself into a place that you don't like, imagine that you are literally driving into toxicity. You better save yourself and get yourself a ticket to the Job Liberation Wellness Summit coming up in May. I have a link in my bio on Instagram. Marissa is right on here. She is one of the speakers. She is joining other phenomenal speakers who have lived that experience and will be able to tell you and facilitate for you how to get out of that mess, how to get out of it, because it will take a toll on you mentally and emotionally, and you may not be consciously aware of it. How many of us heard that story about the woman who went to work and passed away, and they didn't even notice that the woman was dead at her death? Can you imagine? And many of us are dead on the job and still go every day. You get up and you go, you get up and you go. I had an experience last week where I was feeling this level of toxicity and I was like, girl, you about to do what you've always done. I am grateful that in my life experience, if I've worked in a place and it got to the point where it was so toxic I couldn't take it, Yolanda will quit a job without giving you 2 weeks. I won't even give you 2 minutes notice. I will pack my stuff up and be like, see y'all later. Um, Again, not always graceful exits, but I know when I have reached my limit. And there were times I felt that way because I wasn't feeling good physically. And I'm like, I got to save myself. And I don't even know what part of me is taking the hit. I don't know where it's coming from, but I felt that way last week. And so hopefully we all continue to take inventory on our physical state of being. A physical state of being is going to impact you because we are human beings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so consciously, we are aware of our physical experience. The things that you feel, you see, all of the senses that we have been given are superpowers. Those are the things that are tangible and will get your attention, right? You know when you're cold immediately when you're cold. You know when you are hungry when you are immediately hungry. You know when you're thirsty. So we are human beings are physically attuned in ways that we may not be mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. However, if you're doing your work and you're balancing those things out, your mind, your body, and your spirit, hopefully you are working on all three cylinders and you will understand when something is bothering you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and when you need to do something about it. D, I am not mad at you. She says she left a job on a bathroom break. Listen, I I woke up one morning, got dressed, and made a U-turn and said, and didn't even call out, didn't even call anybody, got right back in that bed, and they started calling me, girl, where you at? I'm not coming back. You got stuff here. Keep that stuff, throw it away. I don't care. I'm not coming back. I love it, D. Listen, when you have to save yourself, sometimes it gets to that point where you're like, if I put up with this nonsense one more second, it's not going to be good for me or anybody else in this building. So I have to go. And we don't want you to get to that point. We want you to use your power in such a way where you set yourself up for an easy transition. Sometimes you have to break the glass, emergency, and get out of there. Register for the Job Liberation Summit that's coming up in May so that you will have the tools that you need that'll help you chip away at whatever is tied around your wrist, tied around your ankle, maybe even tied around your neck. And if there are things that you know you want to do, such as starting a business, or maybe you have a side hustle that you didn't even consider could be your sole income, or maybe you want to set yourself up with multiple streams of income, register for the Job Liberation Summit. We are giving tools. We're not telling you what to do, but we're giving you things that you can put in your toolbox to pull out if you need it. There is nothing like having more than one thing. Imagine if all you had in your toolbox was a screwdriver. That screwdriver is not going to get that nail in the wall. That screwdriver is not going to, do the particular things that a drill can do. That screwdriver is not going to tell you where the wires are. You need multiple things in your toolbox so that when you have a situation come up in your life, you can reach in there and be like, I already know how to handle that. Okay. So paying attention to your physical well-being and where is your power going. I recognize after doing a lot of journaling that it's taking me a lot of my power is going towards restoring myself, resting. Now, I love a good rest. I love a good nap. Like I said, the other night, Friday, I slept from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. without a break. Didn't get up, didn't hear anything. My family probably thought I was unconscious. That is not normal behavior or typical behavior for me. But I recognize that it's taking me longer and longer. What happens Monday through Friday is taking up more of my time Saturday and Sunday to restore myself. I was just thinking this morning, 2 days is not enough for what I have to deal with Monday through Friday. And I have to do something about that because my power is now going into getting myself back to the place where I can deal with whatever I have to deal with Monday through Friday. And I never wanted to be one of those weekend warriors because what happens is if I'm living for the weekend, then Monday through Friday become the places where I don't want to be and doing the things I don't want to do. And I don't want to live my life. I want every day to be lived to the fullest, for me to feel good about, without dread, without feeling like, oh, I got to drag myself in here. So pay attention to where your energy is going so that you can do what you need to do to restore yourself. And so, what we're going to do in May, June, and July is about that restoration. All of this information, we're going to take all of this information and we're going to flip this thing. We're going to flip where our power may be going and it's not serving us to the highest of our potential. So, let's look at our spiritual arena, which is your connection to yourself, connection to all things. It is the discipline that you have in your life. And I know many of us are still unlearning that discipline and punishment are two different things. Discipline is healthy boundaries, it's form, it is practice and commitment. It is the boundaries that you create for yourself so that you are able to do the things that you say you want to do. That's discipline. Punishment is you did something wrong and there's a consequence for you. There is a consequence for you. So change the narrative about what you feel about discipline. Discipline is very loving. If you've ever seen a being without boundaries, whether it is a feral cat that has no boundaries, or a house pet that has no boundaries, or a human being who is just left to their own devices without boundaries, you know that is a recipe for disaster. Discipline are the healthy boundaries that we set for ourselves so that we are able to be the best version of ourselves. And I know for many of us, discipline meant punishment, meant withdrawal, meant you don't get to do, whatever language was used in your upbringing. Discipline could feel punitive. You did something wrong, so now you got to be disciplined. Instead of, I want you to be well, I want you to be right. So these are the parameters that I'm creating so that can happen. I remember saying to my nephew years ago, he was going through some stuff, and I said, I love you too much to see you go to hell. and he was like, what does that mean? I said, what that means is we need to create some things for you so you don't wind up in a situation that none of us can save you from. So unfortunately, young brother, we got to save you from yourself because you just out here doing whatever. You need more discipline. Children need discipline. And for many of us, discipline meant a spanking, a beat. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about punishment. I mean healthy boundaries that say we got to place some limits now so we don't have to place stricter limits later. And Yolanda needs a lot of discipline. So, but that's a spiritual principle. I'm disciplined, which means that because I am connected to all things, I'm going to conduct myself in such a way that I don't impact other people and I don't allow other people to impact me. Because if I was just out here like a wild chicken, I could be making everybody's life miserable. But because I recognize my connection, my responsibility, and that I'm accountable, I'm going to discipline myself in such a way. I'm going to recognize and acknowledge the connection that I have, and I'm not going to impact other people, and I'm going to set healthy boundaries for myself. Last week, we were talking about what things could we meditate on, meditating on saying no. Use no as a spiritual principle. It is so freeing. If we look at no in that way, if we look at the things that keep our life balanced as being spiritual practices, then you should have no reason why saying no is difficult. It's a spiritual practice. From here on out, saying no to people is a spiritual practice. Let's have that mindset because it keeps us centered and grounded. Your spiritual sense of being may also be your value system. If you don't have a value system, then what are you operating under? What are you operating under? If you don't set an intention that are based upon the value systems that you have set for yourself, you just out here living it up and just doing whatever. If you don't say to yourself, okay, I consider myself to be a being of love, so I got to be more loving. You don't get to say, I'm going to be more loving and then go out here and cause all kind of hell. If you are grounded in and have particular values for yourself, a code of conduct that says these are my intentions of life are to live in a particular way, and because I'm connected to all things, I recognize things when I see it. I recognize when I see someone who has been living without healthy boundaries. They overwhelmed, or they don't care about anybody else. We see people just saying and doing things, and they're like, well, what about the other people? They just don't care anybody else. If I see one more video of people in a shared space just doing whatever they think that they have the right to do because they don't care about anybody else, it's like you're so disconnected from yourself. You're not connected to anyone. You on the airplane spraying stuff. And I really had that experience one time. I was on an airplane going to Atlanta, and there were these young girls in the back, and they were getting ready to go to Atlanta. They were going to have big fun in Atlanta, but they were spraying every perfume, every cosmetic thing, like hairspray, like it. We are in a shared space. Y'all are so disconnected from the experience that we are all sharing that you're gonna kill yourself and kill us because you are. What are you doing? And so living from spraying up the airplane, y'all, it was all kind of scents, and like everybody had a headache. Like the flight attendant at one point was like, we up in the air, we can't remove y'all, but y'all gotta, like, what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? But think about that. How many of us are not aware of how we are impacting other people, how we're not acknowledging that we're all connected? We just out here doing stuff. We're not grounded, we're out of balance, and we're impacting each other. You know, you ever been in a situation where everybody in the room is having a good time, and here comes somebody in the room, rah, 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 and then the whole room just goes silent? It's like, you just killed the vibe. But you were not reading the room. Like, come on. So your spiritual self. Yes, that was my ode to Claire Huxtable. Big fun with the wretched in Baltimore. Yes, they was about to have big fun in Atlanta, but was killing everybody else on the plane. And so I am does not exclude that the rest of us also am, if that makes sense. If you're looking at the graphic under spiritual, the spiritual part of who we are is us recognizing that we are the I am, and whatever comes after that, you are. I am. But that doesn't mean that you're not. And so we can't be so spiritually, inflated that we forget that we're all part of the collective consciousness. And if I am not committed to my spiritual work, it impacts you. If you are not committed to your spiritual work, it impacts me. Whether I know you or not, whether we share physical space or not, we are impacting one another if we are unwilling to do our spiritual work. And so hopefully you have been taking notes to say, well, where am I out of balance? How am I messing up the matrix? How am I, messing up your algorithm because I don't have any rhythm, because I'm out of balance? I'm responsible for you, and you are responsible for me. And if we had more of that mindset, we wouldn't be out here just doing whatever. We would be taking care of ourselves with the utmost of care because we recognize how it impacts all of us. If I don't take care of myself, my dogs, my grand dogs are impacted. If I'm not the best version of myself that I can be, I go out here in this world and interact with other people. I have no idea what I might be doing to them. I have no idea with what I say, what I do, which is why yesterday was such a loving experience for me to walk into a place with people I don't know and they took care of me. We need more of that. We need more of that, where people are willing to take care of one another just because it's a spiritual practice. Not because you're going to gain something or get something, but because you know it's better for all of us. If I take care of you in a way which I don't mean overextending yourself, people pleasers, stop wherever you are, because I can hear y'all getting revved up like, yeah, I need to take care of more people. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we are more mindful that we are first taking care of ourselves, then we are better prepared to take care of one another. So if I am not spiritually connected to something, if I am not grounded, if I am not balanced, if I am not disciplined, if I don't have healthy boundaries and a value system and a code of conduct and intentions and affirmations and prayer and meditate and all of the things that keep me centered and grounded and connected to all other things, if I am not clear about what the I am, then how are any one of us supposed to be sure about who we are? And we're going to get to the bigger, larger point of all of this. Why do we have to be so mindful? We have to. That's what we're here for. And so let's go to the mental section, the section that is in that ugly yellow that I don't like. So, mental energy, well, let me say the mind is made up of mental and emotional energy, which is why I have those two next to each other, which is why they are also connectors on the energy center. You've got your second energy center, depending upon where you're starting from. Some people start from the earth chakra as one, some people start from the root. I like to start from the root as one. And then you go on up to the second chakra, which is the emotional center. And you go up to the third chakra, which is the mental center, your sacral and your solar plexus. Those two together, they can wreak havoc if you are not clear how they interact with one another. So let's break it down. For the mental energy, what you are thinking, what you believe in, your operating system, just like computers have operating system. Many of our operating systems are set on survival. And so we just out here doing stuff like robots, just boop, boop, boop. This is what I do. This is what I know to do. This is what I know to do. This is what I know to do to survive. This is what I know to do to survive. So this is what I'm consistently thinking. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm thinking. We all have core beliefs that can keep us elevated or keep us stagnant. There goes that lovely word again. But your thoughts. So when you think about your power, what has the majority of your time and focus? What are you thinking about most? If you are worrying more than you are doing anything else, that takes a lot of energy. To keep that negativity going keeps a lot of energy. To hold up something that is not true takes a lot of energy. The truth is very freeing. A lie takes a whole lot of energy because you got to keep feeding it. You have to keep feeding it. And I don't know if it was this year or last year when we were doing the inner child healing about, I have a graphic for it, about being told something, sold something, or beholding something. And sometimes we have these core beliefs that somebody told us and we believe it, or somebody sold us something and it seemed like it was a good deal. It sounded like something, we wanted to hold on to. So we hold on to it, or we hold on to old stories because we don't know who we would be without it. And they sometimes can make up our core beliefs. And then that's the way you think about everything that you encounter. If you don't think much of yourself, you're not going to think much of other people. Or you could think other people are so much greater than you that you also don't think much of yourself. It could be a double-edged sword. It really could be. You said, I am not dragging you, my dear. I'm dragging myself too because I recognize as I've been, writing my stuff down, I'm like, you ain't as spiritually grounded as you think you are, Yolanda. You're not. Because I am also caught up in a cycle of uncertainty. Even though I feel certain about particular things in my life, there's maybe one or two things where I'm just in this cycle of that it's not going to happen. Even if I'm telling myself, or it makes it seem like I'm telling myself, you're doing great. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm not really putting any energy or action behind making those things actually happen. I just keep telling myself, telling myself, telling myself. So the thought is there, but there's no energy behind it. So a thought is wonderful, it's great, but if you ain't got no action and energy behind it, it ain't nothing but something swimming around in your head. And for many of us, that's what our dreams look like. Just these things that swim around in our head, that they are nice thoughts to have, that they come up in our dreams. It's like, oh yeah, when that happens, it's going to be glorious, but we ain't putting no action behind it, which is why all of these things are in a circle and they've got a little lovely arrows. Because if you're thinking something and you're feeling something, but you physically are not doing or acting, then you just got this thing in your mind. And that's why mental and emotional on this graphic both have mind at the top. Because the mental energy, the emotional energy, it's like I might think something and I might feel it. But if I'm not actively living through both that thought and that feeling, and I always say thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are like a triangle. If one of those things is not part of the equation, it's just some energy that's just bouncing around, you know, probably making you feel inadequate because there isn't anything else behind it. And so where's your power going? Where are your thoughts going? And of course, we got to get to the emotional part. The feelings is an acknowledgement in your body, and it also has a physical component to it. You know when you feel something, and I don't mean when you say, or when we say, I think I feel, happy about. No, take the thought out of it, get down to the nitty-gritty. This thing makes me feel. I feel dread. I feel. Remember the feelings wheel, the emotions wheel? Give your emotions words so that you can definitively say what the intensity of that emotion is. Like if somebody says, how you doing? And you're like, okay, that says nothing. It gives nothing. It's okay to pause when people ask, how you doing? You don't have to respond with okay. You can literally pause and take an inventory and say, I'm going to tell them the truth. You don't know what will happen, but tell the truth. I feel energized. I feel depleted. I feel purposeful. Whew. I feel I feel loving. I feel desperate. Like tell the truth. Tell the truth about how you feel so that it can give permission to other people to do that. Imagine if we all really started being real about our feelings, maybe we could support one another in better ways. Because if I ask you how you doing and you say okay, that sounds like everything is working the way it's supposed to work. But if I ask you how you feeling and you say okay, but I'm looking at your face, I'm looking at the state of the everything else that you've said in our conversation, I'm like, that don't sound anything like okay. Tell me the truth. And I may even question why is this person that I really you know, I really want to know how they're doing. Why are they not being truthful with me? Why are they hiding? We all have to get to that level of intimacy and vulnerability that may make you uncomfortable initially, but once you start to tell the truth will live in your body, it'll live in your throat, and you'll start to trust yourself when you tell the truth. When you are honest about how you feel and you share that with other people, your mind will start to believe what you say. And then you can live from a place of power because you don't feel bad about lying about what's going on with your body. You think your body doesn't feel when you lie? Your whole stomach is in knots and in shambles, and you out here, I'm good. Your body is like, why is she, what? Why is she lying about us? Until you find yourself ill, sick, because you're lying to the very thing that is carrying you through life. Just out here, I'm okay. I love saying I am not well because there were so many times when I lied about not being well. I love when I'm able to say I am not well because what usually comes after that is a boundary that I need to set. You know, if I'm in my office and someone comes in there, I need you to do something, blah, 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 I can say, I am not well. And therefore, I'm not honoring any requests right now. I have to take care of myself. I am not well, so I'm leaving. I've started to do this thing where I'm leaving notes of all, the things that I'm doing so that if I need to walk away, whoever comes behind me will know exactly what needs to be done. So I'm setting myself up so that I don't feel like I got to stay here longer than necessary because if I'm not here, I take the information with me. It's like that part in Black Panther where T'Challa goes to the ancestral realm, and his father, of course, has passed on. He has semi passed on, and he says, "If I have not prepared my children for my death, I have not done my job." And so that's my mindset now. If I have not prepared for the people who are coming before me, then I have not done my job. I don't want to take the information with me. I don't want to take the power with me. I want to empower anybody that comes in to do this role. I want them to be just as empowered because in some ways it was done for me. Before I stepped into that role, the person that had it said, this is where you'll find this. This is where you do. So I'm living by that now. It's like I don't want to take the power with me. I don't want to take the knowledge and the wisdom with me. I want to share it. And so for those of us who are walking around with these intense feelings, this intense energy, are you looking at this wheel? Are you living from a place of power where you recognize and acknowledge all of these parts of who you are? That you're a spiritual being, a physical being, a mental being, an emotional being, and all of these things require you to be aware of how you are doing in all of these areas. You may not know it at all times. You may not even be at a place where you can connect to all of them at the same time. That is why we practice. That is why we are gaining clarity so that we can get to a place that if I'm unconsciously hurting myself, I can connect it to something mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. I want to be so honest with myself that there is no language like failure or success. There is, where are you in your journey? Are you in the learning phase? Are you at the mastery phase? Or are you somewhere in between? There is no success. There is no failure. There is a journey. And I'm aware of where I'm at. And some days I might be at the mastery level in some things, and some days I might be at the novice level. And I'm going to be okay with both of those because this journey is everlasting until I transition into something else. Beloved, I feel very incapable and like I'm not brave and driven enough to go after my dreams. I have always felt that way, unfortunately. But you saying that and being aware of that is the beginning of everything. You are not lying to yourself. You are not calling it something else. You are saying, literally saying, how you feel and what your experience is. And the fact that you put unfortunately at the end tells me that you don't want to continuously have that experience. So it's my belief that this is the beginning of you speaking your truth and saying, this is where I am now, but this is not where I will remain. I have felt that way for a very long time. I've always felt that way, but I desire something different. You know how powerful that is. And you're doing it in a public forum. Do you know how powerful that is? For you to speak that, it is now out, and you can say, I see it. And this has been my experience for a very long time, but I also hear and feel I desire another experience. And you saying that you're not brave, it took a lot of bravery for you to do what you just did. And I have had this conversation as of late with my beloved where we may not be clear about what the dream is or how to go about the steps of starting it. But if you can tap into how do you want to feel? If you can, and one of the things that I'd like to do with my coaching clients, if you can pick three feelings, three values, three things that you want to experience, and just focus on that. Put those at the top of a piece of paper. I want to feel accomplished. I want to feel loved. I want to feel healthy. Whatever it is for you. And then underneath each of those things, you start to tell yourself, well, why do I want to feel that way? Why do I want that? And what does it look like? And what would it require me to be? That's all. You just start with that. Start with that. But this right here is a declaration that you are clear about what your experience has been and that you desire another experience. So yes, thank you for sharing that and for being so honest and the fact that you may have unleashed some honesty in someone else by saying that. Baby, ain't nothing small about you. There's absolutely nothing small about you. The amount of power that it takes for us to be our true authentic self is sometimes so overwhelming, which is why we don't step into it. We feel like it's too big, it's too grand, it's too large. However, if you are aware of it, that it exists, even if you think you don't have it, but you're aware, because first you have to have a level of awareness, even if you're telling yourself you don't have it. You have to have that awareness. You know how many people who are walking around being mediocre and really thinking they out here killing the game? And I don't know who wrote it, who said it first, but there's a statement like there is nothing like a mediocre, the assurance or the arrogance of a mediocre white man. Like that's the level of assurance that I desire to have. It's like we really out here killing it. And there are people who are doing the least. And God bless them if they think that their least is the most. Have at it. But there are really, really individuals who are doing the absolute least and being applauded for it. And we're out here killing ourselves and telling ourselves that we're not doing anything. There is nothing small about you, honey. Absolutely not nothing. And forgive me if calling you honey even makes you feel small. But what we are talking about is how much of our power is going to those kind of thoughts, beliefs, those kind of emotions, that kind of spiritual practice. Because whatever we engaged in, We're practicing on a regular basis. So, what's your spiritual practice look like? A bunch of I can'ts and I won'ts and no's, no's, no's? Mm-mm. Let's be aware of where our power is going so that we can translate it into something greater. And the reason we want to do all of this, because all of this is really about consciousness. It is about consciousness. And I hope that I can see, and I always say, we going long, but I get it so excited. And when y'all participate, it just gets me so excited. So, consciousness, power is really about energy. Energy is really about consciousness. And so, let me take this graphic out the way so y'all can see it. This is one of my New Thought dictionaries. It's a way to define things differently in a more conscious and spiritual way. And so, one of the definitions, and what I love about this dictionary is that there's not just one definition for a word, there's so many different definitions. And one of the definitions for consciousness is the perception of existence. So, if your physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional existence make up who you are, how do you perceive it? And how do you perceive it as it relates to the rest of the world? If that doesn't define consciousness for you, or you have additional definitions for consciousness, please share them. But when I read that, I was like, that's really what power is about. How I perceive myself in relation to all things that are in existence. And if I am perceiving myself like this and everything else like that, then my physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional energy are going to be like that. And it can't survive like that because we not like that. We like this. And beyond, we have and hold all of this energy, all of this awareness. And to process that at a perception that is beneath who you are will take your power every single time. Every single time. Like what our dear beloved just did by being so honest. I hope that encourages and inspires every single one of us to have that level of honesty with ourselves, to say what we have felt like, what we have lived with. If you recognize that there are cycles in your life, you better state them, say what they are without fear. And even if you are afraid, do it anyway. To say, I'm in a cycle of poverty. I'm in a cycle of low self esteem. I'm in a cycle of lack. I'm in a cycle of undisciplined behavior. I'm in a cycle of I keep letting that same person step on that same nerve ending over and over and over again, and I'm not doing anything about it. I am in a cycle of running from my problems, thinking that I'm going to outrun them instead of facing them head on. That's something that I'm dealing with. Child, I love to put stuff behind a closed door and act like it ain't there. I'm so grateful that my house has a lot of closets because I will put something in a closet and act like it ain't there, act like it doesn't exist until I have to open the closet and stuff is falling out. I'm like, oh gosh, I forgot about all this stuff that I don't want to deal with. That's a cycle for me. I have a consistent cycle of avoiding responsibility. I don't like being responsible, and people are like, "You're so responsible," and I don't like it. There's so much unnecessary pressure that I put on myself when someone gives me something to be responsible, and sometimes I'll act like I'm excited about it. I'm like, "You want me to do that?" And in my head, I'm like, "Oh God." And as our dear sister shared earlier, I always make it harder than it needs to be. Always. Team too much. Because that is what I've learned. that if you want something done or if something needs to be done, it needs to be hard, it needs to be complicated, it needs to have 20 million working parts. And I'm unlearning that most of the things that I have to do in my life are quite simple. Quite simple. But I immediately see responsibility as something heavy that I'm not able to carry and that other people are expecting to be grand. And there are times that I'm grateful for when I'm given something and I look at it and I'm like, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of mental energy on this. I know that's probably one of the reasons you gave it to me, but I'm not. I'm not spending my mental. I'm so grateful that I'm now making choices in my life where I'm like, I'm not spending more than X amount of time on this. And when I find myself spending more time on things, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you cut it out? There no one signed you up to be a perfectionist. And I posted on Instagram yesterday about these awards that we think that we're getting for being perfect, for going the extra mile, for putting our what is it your nose to the grindstone, all of those things that we have been told and sold and across our lifespan that makes you a good human. The blood, the sweat, and the tears that you have poured for particular things that probably weren't even, most of them weren't even your things. They were somebody else's thing. That's living in our consciousness. And we have to do something about that. And so there's also a definition, I thought I had bookmarked it, about power that I love. We think of power as being something that we hold over others or other people hold over us, when power is similar to the energy of consciousness. Where, oh gosh, can I see it? Power. Belief is not the power, but the avenue through which it flows. Power is not created by us, we use it. We live because we live, and because forces exist, we use them. Just as in electricity. Now, listen to this. It's so delicious. The generator, the dynamo, and the distributor are not the electrical power, but the mechanical instrument through which it flows for specific uses. So, faith and belief are mechanical, mental avenues through which a power already existing flows into definitive use. The power already exists. How are you using it? It's based upon your perception or your consciousness. It's not something you got to get, gain, or create. It already exists. So the power that we're using in our physical arena, spiritual, mental, emotional arena, it already exists. We're not creating it, but we are using it based upon our level of perception of existence. So how are you seeing yourself? Physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. If you are seeing yourself with the level of honesty that our dear one just shared, then you have the potential to use your power that already exists in another way. So, right now, based upon that statement, and I'm going to go back up to it, and I'm not meaning to put you on display, but it was such an honest and very real, relatable statement. I feel very incapable. So that is a power statement. Even if someone comes along and says, well, that's a very, small way of looking at yourself. No, 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 no. That's a power statement. The graphic that said the spiritual thing was I am. Whatever you put after that I am, you are. So that's a power statement. I feel very incapable and like I'm not brave. If that is how you are feeling your perception That is the state of being of the power that is flowing right now. But because you are aware of it, you have the greater potential to transfer it into something else because that power already exists. Just if we think about it tangibly, it already exists. Whatever you pour into it, whatever your perception is that goes into that power, that's what it becomes. And so imagine if we were all at that level of honesty where we were not lying to ourselves, where we say, this is how I feel right now. And that is not what I desire. I desire to use this power in another way. How do I go about doing that? I got to be very clear about where it is. That power, let's imagine that power was in a container and it's already existing and it is asking how you want to use me. What you going to put? What perception, what consciousness are you going to pour into the power that already exists so that it flows out of you in a particular way, so that you operate from that particular place? Oh my goodness. As I'm saying it, I can see it for myself. It's like you out here thinking you got to gain something, get something, create something, and it's already in existence. Change your perception of how you see yourself physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Because that power already exists, baby. There's nothing you have to get from anybody else. And no one is going to be able to tell you how to use it until you are ready to see it differently for yourself. For yourself. And I'm so grateful for that power move that you just created, that you created for all of us. And so, for those of us who are using our thinking we're using our power in ways that's going to get us something, gain something, we think, well, if I do more of this, then I'll get more of that. Take a beat, take a step, take a breath. Become very, very clear through consistent exercises where you are asking yourself, where is my power going? I'm spending way too much time physically, mentally, and emotionally and spiritually running like a dog running after its tail. It's like I'm running after something that already is there. Like if I stopped, I might be able to catch it if I just get still. If I just get still in my mind, in my body, in my spirit, and acknowledge the power that is already present and say, you know what? We're going to do something different. Our level of perception is about to change. We're going to start saying things to ourselves so that our mental energy is a particular way. We're going to start allowing ourselves to feel particular things so we're not hiding it, so that our emotional energy starts to change. We're going to start taking better care of ourselves and our physical environment so that we start to feel better about the behavior that we're engaged in. And we won't connect. We are going to connect ourselves. We're going to ground ourselves in a spiritual way because how we are spiritual beings having a temporary, limited human experience. So I'm going to start in all areas of my life. I'm going to become more aware of when I'm limiting myself, when I'm denying myself, when I'm not telling myself the truth, when I'm not setting healthy boundaries, when I don't have a value system, a code of conduct, when I'm not setting any intentions, when I'm not affirming myself. I'm going to pay attention when I'm not hydrating myself, resting myself. I'm going to pay more attention when I'm engaged in mental activity that is not serving me well, when I'm scrolling on social media or listening to something that is hurting me mentally, or if I'm engaged in hurting myself mentally or emotionally, I'm going to pay attention to it. I'm going to document it so I can see what's going on, because maybe I do it when my energy is low. Maybe I do it when particular people are around. Maybe I do it when I ain't got no money in my pocket. Maybe I engage in it when I'm hungry. I said to myself the other day, a lot of your problems, Yolanda, could be solved if you would just hydrate yourself, because you're probably dehydrated, or you're probably hungry and you're not eating well. A lot of your problems could be solved with water, with just drinking more water. You are so absolutely welcome. And thank you for giving us your power and allowing us to see ourselves in it, because I know many of us have share in those feelings. And if the power within us already exists and that's our level of perception, we can see why things are the way they are. So if you are saying, I feel afraid to go after my dreams, absolutely, that makes complete sense to me. If your power system, your operating system is in search of an upgrade or some transference. If it, and it's not to say that there's something wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with you. You are becoming aware of what's going on internally. Hey, Tea Time Beauty, she sit and connect with my, yes. Being in the present moment is when I am most powerful. Let me tell you something. If we have the ability to be present, to quiet the past, to pull the shade down on the future that hasn't happened, we could ground ourselves and balance ourselves. I consider myself to be a viewer of human behavior, and I'm amazed when I see examples of people living in the past or wanting to recreate the past. And this weekend, my family, we were watching the X-Men cartoon on Disney Plus that's supposed to be stylized from the 80s. And I said to them, I said, a lot of this retro movie stuff and, kid like behavior is really us trying to heal our inner children. That's why we're so drawn to the past, because we really want to go back and heal that stuff. And we may not always acknowledge it as inner child healing, but, sitting there with my children and watching something from that was supposed to be stylized from the 80s, the 90s. It was interesting. Like, I'm sitting there and I could see everyone having a moment of their inner child, like getting something that they needed at that particular moment. And it was something to view. And so I'm always interested when people are heavily invested in the past, like people who live for their high school reunions. I used to, I'm not one of those people. People who live for nostalgia, I'm good. But I understand that part of that might be the desire to recreate or to heal something from the past. And we all do it. We all do it in our own way. And so it can be a powerful thing if we learn to use it in that way. If we are learning about ourselves, to build ourselves up, to renew ourselves, and to learn instead of regret, shame, and guilt. So some of us, and I will include myself in that, we like to go to the past to push that guilt button, shame button. Oh, I wish the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. I wish I had done something different. I could have done this different. I should have done. The coulda, shoulda, wouldas will get you every time. And so make sure that all of the self exploration, if you're going to the past, if you're going to your future, make sure that it is because you want to heal and not because you want to engage in self destructive behavior, because we've been programmed to do that. Last week, somebody brought up, I think I brought it up, humility and pride. We'll talk about that in some other time. Whatever your lessons about pride and humility, are, you might need to re examine them because they may have been incorrect, or maybe they were correct for the period of time that you were in. You're a different being, so you might need a different lesson. You might need a new, different definition. Don't be afraid to redefine things because you are different. We are different. And I know that the purist in us would say, well, a definition is a definition. However, Webster's changing stuff all the time. So why can't you? Why can't you redefine particular things for yourself as you evolve? Celeste, I hope you do engage in that this evening. I hope many of us, we're going to get the opportunity to do that now because we're going to get ready for meditation. Um, yeah, whatever comes up, write it down. Don't be afraid of your own thoughts. It's living in you and it's going to come out in some shape or form. We keep thinking that we can run from stuff. You're not running from nothing. If it's living in your body, living in your mind, living in your spirit, it's going to be with you like a tapeworm. It's not going anywhere. That energy is not going anywhere. So, what better way to utilize that power that already exists by looking at it and say, well, what does it look like? What is my perception? What am I telling myself? What am I holding on to? What am I believing to be the truth when I know it's not? Now would be a good time. Oh man, we done got up to 78 degrees here in Delaware and I'm feeling it. Now would be a good time to meditate. If there is a particular thing that anyone would like to offer for meditation, I'm more than willing to add it and see what comes up. I loved what we did last week about clarity and saying no, and how they are really the same thing. If you look at no as a spiritual practice, if you look at clarity like a spiritual practice, and telling yourself, I have to say no. And it may not always be to save yourself, it might be to save someone else. Like, I got to say no to you because the more I say yes, the more you just ignore your own lesson. No. I did something yesterday that I very rarely do when it comes to grandbaby girl and her parents, but I had to intervene because there was a no that was needed. No, we're not doing that. I had to put my child and her husband out of my house. Like, y'all got to go. Because she was just wailing and no, we're going to put an end to that right now. And she was fine. I want her to be comfortable with hearing no and saying no, so that she doesn't ever have to grow up in an experience where her no's are not listened to and she's unclear of when to say no. And so let's come into this right now moment. Before I do that, can I just say, it looks like Instagram is still going. So, all right, Instagram, thank you for doing whatever you needed to do. Hey, my friend. And the only reason I'm looking over here is because that's the screen that Instagram is on. I see my niecey poo. Two of my niecey poos. I love y'all. Let me say something about really quick before we meditate about this whole separation that happens when we start talking about the generation. So, yesterday, there literally were 3 or 4 generations in my living room, and we were all part of one experience watching that X-Men 1997. I don't even know the name of it, but we were all watching. And of course, we all have our different levels of perception because we are all different ages. I'm 53. My daughter and her husband, they're in their 30s. My youngest daughter, 25, and then grandbaby girl's going to be 4. So we're all in our different stages of life. And we're having this similar experience. And I was thinking to myself, why do we spend so much time trying to separate ourselves by generation? I couldn't even tell you what generation I'm a part of because I don't subscribe to any of that nonsense. Um, and I don't want to subscribe to anything that separates us any further by one generation saying it's better than the other, by one group of people saying we had it harder, y'all got it easier. Listen, we all out here trying to live based upon our level of perception, based upon the things that we have experienced. I'm grateful that there are things that I experienced in my lifetime that my children never will have to, but I'm also saddened that my children will experience some things that my generation didn't clean up or take care of. But if we continue on this road of this generation doesn't understand this and this generation is better than that, and just recognize and acknowledge we all perceive things differently because we've all had a different life experience. One was not greater than the other, one not worse than the other. We all just out here trying to live. But if we continue to separate ourselves and say, I had it worse than you, therefore you should take it easier on me, or you had it better or easier than I did, so therefore you should be better to me, and just say, why can't we just be good to one another? Because we've all had life experiences that have challenged us and that we need each other more than we recognize. And so if 3 to 4 generations can sit in a room and all bring their experiences to that without anyone saying, well, we had it worse or we had it greater. Now, certainly there were, comments like, I don't remember that, or it didn't happen that way. And that's okay. That's okay. Can we please try to decrease the conversations of separation that we seem to have with one another, whether it's by gender, whether it's by race, whether it's by generation? We do not serve ourselves in the collective consciousness by doing so. So let's cut it out. Or at the very least, can we decrease it and recognize that there is a lot to learn? I learn a lot from those that are younger than me, and I learn a lot from those that are older than me. I'm still learning from my peer. Like, I'm learning. We are all learning. Some things we do well. Some things we need to change. Like, let's just cut out the conversation of separation. Rant over. Let's come into this moment, this right now moment, this present moment. Do you recognize, realize, acknowledge, and are you willing to see that this moment right now is the best moment there ever was? Because we can clear out whatever needs to be cleared and stay focused on the here and the now. What happened in the past and what is going to happen in the future are not of any significance or importance right now. All that is right now. And if you have to continuously say to yourself, stay here, then do so. We have expressed a lot, absorbed a lot, processed a lot. And there will be more to be done. But in this right now moment, let's just pull up the energy of gratitude. Gratitude for all that are present physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Does not mean that they have to be watching this particular moment, but they're with us. Anyone that has ever come into your human experience is with you in some shape or form, whether it was for 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 years, or your entire lifetime. We create imprints and we create impact upon one another, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. So, in this right now moment, let's pull up the energy of gratitude for all of those experiences that have left something in our consciousness that we now have the ability to see, to hear, to taste, to touch, to ponder, to learn from, to gain from, to evolve from, to grow from. Whether those experiences were challenging, uplifting, and yes, even the toxic ones, even those toxic experiences, we can pull something out of and create something greater. We can recognize our part in it. We can say, I will never allow myself to be used in that way. I will create a stronger no for myself and for others. I will use my scars as a roadmap for others to avoid similar experiences. A lot of the work that many of us do, it's where it comes from. Those scars, those scratches, that pain. And if you are able to take that and use it as a road map or a blueprint for someone else to avoid or to learn from, that is a very loving thing. Because many of us have thought about taking that pain, taking those scars, throwing them into a container and locking it away, never to speak on, never to look at, not wanting to engage with that painful past. But in this right now moment where we are full of gratitude, we can look at it differently. We can perceive it differently. I'm grateful that I'm able to look at my pain as medicine for someone else. I am grateful that I am able to see it differently than I did when I was going through it. And so, if it does happen to come along on my journey again, I can have a certain level of awareness that I've been through this or something greater. I've learned from it, I've gained wisdom, and I can apply it. And I can reclaim what I thought I had lost, what I thought I gave up, what I thought was stolen from me. I can use that. And for that, I am grateful. That pain, those scars have not made me bitter. They may have made me more afraid. They may have made me more reluctant to open myself up. But the more I do my own personal work, my own one on one spiritual expansion, I recognize that I can't contain this wisdom, this intelligence, these thoughts, these feelings. And I think that's one of the things about personal development that we don't always count on. That once you are able to perceive something differently, you are unable to keep it to yourself. You want to share it, you want to offer it up as wisdom so that someone else might be able to avoid the very thing that you found yourself in. That is such a loving act. And it's a very brave and courageous thing to do. And so, as we move through this week, will we continue to look at ourselves with more honesty, with more accountability, with more commitment and a level of consistency that keeps us disciplined as we continue to unlearn particular things that may keep us in an energy of resistance and fear? Let us recognize that we do not do it just for ourselves, it is for the entire collective consciousness. And let us offer up a deep and profound thank you. I thank you for doing your work. I thank you for doing the challenging work of uncovering those scars, those scabs, that pain, because you're doing that for me. And for that, I am grateful. I'm grateful for your vulnerability. I'm grateful for you moving into spaces and sharing parts of yourself so that someone else can see themselves and say, it's not just me. I am not alone. I'm grateful for your honesty and your truth. and how you are determined to use your time here wisely because none of us knows how much time we have been given. But because we are all here as bodies of physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional energy, and we are engaged and interacting with one another, because of that, if you are taking the time to care for, support, and facilitate for someone else, when sometimes you feel like you barely got enough time for yourself, I say thank you. And I hope that you are proud of yourself. I hope that you are proud of the work that you are doing. And I hope that you are proud in this right now moment and in all of the moments to come and in all of the moments that have already been. I hope you see yourself as powerful. I hope you recognize that the power has already been existing in your consciousness. The only thing that you are required to do is take an examination of your level of perception of things that already exist. You ain't got to create nothing, nothing, except perhaps a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling, and some new behaviors. And all three of those things are going to come into alignment when you are prepared to see yourself and your level of consciousness in a different way. I trust that each and every single one of us who are working towards a higher consciousness recognize that it is a lifelong exploration. Be gentle with yourself, be gentle with others. As you move through this week, when your body is telling you something, you better listen. Have enough courage to listen and to answer with whatever is for your highest good. Even if it pisses some other people off, they'll be all right. And perhaps it's what they need for them to learn whatever lessons they may need to learn. Mm. Let us not think so much of ourselves that we think that we are higher than another being. And let us also not think so low of ourselves that we think that we are less than any other being. Let us all recognize that we all have our own unique journey filled with lessons for us to learn and unlearn, and we do the best that we can. And in those moments when we are not feeling like the best versions of ourselves, we can always take a breath and take another one and take another one until we can regulate ourselves to the point where we say, all right, I'm ready to place my feet firmly in the places where it needs to be so that I can see what I need to see, hear what I need to hear, and act accordingly. I'm so, so grateful for this space and this time where we have an opportunity to love on ourselves and love on one another. It is so encouraging to see individuals who may never meet in the flesh love upon one another without any conditions of you got to look like this, you got to sound like that, you got to have this, you got to bring this to the table. We ain't got none of that here. There is no table. And for that I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the time that you didn't think was too much to spend. And I'm honored to share space with each and every single one of you. I really, really am. I am so grateful for all of the love that was created in the comment section. And I'm looking at Instagram. I'm looking at YouTube. I think I'm looking at Facebook. I don't even know. I'm just grateful. I see all the hands, the support, the heart, the love. Delaware's at a balmy 78 degrees wherever you are. I hope it is beautiful weather. Even if it's not beautiful weather, if you somewhere, just acknowledge what is going on around you and that it's not just one thing, it's all the things. Acknowledge all of the sounds and the sights and the smells. Acknowledge that you are present in the midst of all of them. Take some time to look up at the sky today and say, thank you that I get to see that. Look down at the ground and say, thank you, I get to place my feet firmly. And if you are unable to do either of those things, just like our good sister said, I'm clocking out for today and taking care of myself. If you are unable to do that, please look to those who have done it and say, one day that's going to be me. One day, because I recognize that we all live with different privileges and rights. And so for many of us, we may not have the ability to just walk away from a job. We may not have the ability to just walk away from a relationship. We may not have the ability to, walk away from the things that may be causing some challenges in our life. If you can, even if it's 5 minutes a day, get some time for yourself by breathing, by sitting, by saying, one day that's going to be me. One day I'm going to be in a position where I'm able to walk away from the things that I know I need to walk away from. Please don't make, if you are sitting in an experience that you know is toxic, please don't make yourself feel worse by saying you can't even get out of it. I will always go back to Nelson Mandela saying that his body may have been in prison, but his mind was not. So your physical experience or your physical environment may look one way, but your level of perception and your mindset can be a completely different experience. It takes practice. I'm not saying he had it easy. I'm not saying any one of us has it easy where we can just boop, have our mind be in one place while our bodies are in some other place. We may not have that privilege, but if the thought, if the feeling is within you, trust me, the behavior, the action can also be within you. Keeping your mind centered, keeping your mind, your mental and emotional energy in a particular place. And it takes practice, it takes discipline, it takes a whole lot. But that can free you in ways that you may not be able to physically free yourself just yet. And this may sound like a plug, but I really believe in the work that Marissa and others do in terms of liberation, because there's not just one way to be liberated. Please do not think that one person's liberation has to look like your liberation. It is different for all of us. So you might see someone living on an island and their monthly expenses are like $200 a month, US dollars, and you're like, now that's freedom, that's liberation. And your liberation may look different. Don't beat yourself up and say, well, if I'm not doing that, then I'm not truly free. For many of us, we have to look at where we are and create or define what freedom looks like. If you're a single parent and you've got 5 kids, liberation for you might be a daily shower. And you're lucky and grateful if you can get that. So create and define what liberation looks like for you and what I said earlier about success and failure. If you get to a particular point where you feel grounded enough that success and failure is not even in your vocabulary, it is, this is where I am on my journey and I'm learning no matter what. I'm not comparing myself to others. I'm not in competition with others. I'm really taking a look at my individual circumstance, and I get to determine what balance looks like for me, what freedom looks like for me, what liberation looks like for me. However, if you do not have particular freedom tools in your toolbox, then engage with individuals who have done that work. And I'm trusting that you will learn something that will support you on your journey. I know it has worked for me. My beloved asked me a question yesterday. He's like, well, how did you learn how to do what it is that you're doing? By watching others, by recognizing and acknowledging that I was already doing it on some level, and by believing in myself enough that I'm co-creating with the universe. So I'm not failing at anything, even if it doesn't look like what other people think it might need to look like, or sometimes I tell myself what it needs to look like. This is a journey, and I'm just happy to be considered. To be considered on the journey. Somebody let me on the bus, and I'm happy for that. And I want to see where it goes. I want to see where it goes. So thank you to each and every single one of you. That's my email address. Now I owe one of our dear watchers, listeners, sisters, um, a return email. I'm gonna get to you today, my sister, and we're gonna set something up for hopefully next Sunday. Now, next Sunday is the first Sunday in May. You will need to come with a piece of paper and a pen because we're gonna have to write some stuff down. We did not collect all of this information just to be, taking up space in a journal. Now we're going to move into some action, things that we can actually do to support us in terms of, I now know where my power is going. Now what I'm going to do about it. So we can look at next month as what you're going to do about it. That's is what you're going to do about it, May. What you going to do with all this information, all this info, all this stuff that you have been writing down. Thank you. Thank each and every single one of you. You make me a better coach. That sounds like something from a movie. You make me want to be a better man. What movie is that from? Um, yeah, you whatever movie that's from. I want to be, I desire to be and intend to be a better coach because of the inspiration that I get from each and every single one of you. And I thank you for that. I've got some things to do. Thank you for loving on me today. I hope that you felt the love that I intended to share with you. I got some things that I need to do. Instagram, I'm just so happy that you didn't get kicked off like an unwanted passenger on a flight. Like, you don't have a ticket, get out of here. Because that's what it felt like. I'm so glad that you were along for the entire ride. And I hope that everything that you saw and heard today will encourage you to also do a live. Challenge yourself to do a live. You don't even have to know what you're going to talk about. Just get on there and start talking. Be more visible. We need to see more people being more visible, being more active instead of the stuff that we see on a day-to-day basis. If I see more and more person trying to hurt themselves for some views, people are flipping off stuff, jumping on stuff, just acting all kind of like, please don't do that. I mean, for some people it works. And although I do not have TikTok anymore, I don't know what's going on with the TikTok. They trying to take it away. I don't know. If they do, and I recognize that for many people, that is part of their livelihood. If they do, please don't stop doing what you're doing. Find other ways in which to do it. Don't let one thing determine how you express yourself in the world. We can't be given so much power to these applications that we think that's the only way that people will discover our message or see us or hear us. Find other ways. Build other platforms up. There are so many different platforms that would love to be built up. And we can do that. We have the power to do that. And so I hope that for this week we really think about our level of perception and consciousness and power. Continue to write down where your power is going, because as we've heard today, it already exists. It's not something you got to go get. You don't have to be more, you don't have to create more. You have it. You need to know where it's going. Okay. I love me. I love you. I love us. Thank you so much for watching. For those of you who share with others, I know that y'all are bringing other people onto this platform, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it because you don't have to do that. And I'm so, so grateful for it. Again, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Job Liberation Summit that is coming up in May, I have a link on my Instagram. And I believe because it's in my link tree, it should be linked on all of my platforms. Listen, say it again. We are natural born creators. It's what we came here to do. It's what we came here to be. So please go out and create. Don't worry about who's watching, how many people are there. Create it, and just like that thing, they will find you. Your people will find you. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. Can I tell y'all that before I go, can I tell you this very concept of working through the physical, the spiritual, the mental, and emotional? I wrote a book in 2014 with this very concept. Never put it out. It's still on my Google Drive. But 2014, 10 years ago, I sat down and wrote this out. Didn't think about it, didn't really pour into it. And here I am 10 years later, like, girl, you know what this is because you already did this 10 years ago. I was a different person then. I wasn't thinking about being anybody's spiritual life coach. It was something that I did for myself. And here I am 10 years later. So who knows? That book might see the light of day. I don't know. But keep doing whatever it is that you are doing. You have no idea when it's going to come forth, when it's going to be born. Not all births take 9 months. Sometimes it takes 10 years. Just keep doing what you're doing. Don't you dare. D, don't you dare quit. You bet not. D, we need you. We need you. The collective consciousness needs you. So don't you quit. You keep going. And if there's something that any one of us can do, just speak it. Speak it. That's right. Come on now. You're not. You are absolutely not. And so this is where my email address, y'all. Okay. Let me think about how we can also, I know that we all may have YouTube channels and Instagrams, and we can, you know, we can subscribe to that. But there's another action. I feel like there is another action that we can engage in to support one another. Um, think about it. I'm going to think about it. And then next Sunday, let's talk about that. Think about ways that people can support you. Write it down. And then next week, we're not going to be afraid about speaking and asking for it. Let's do that. Let's do that next Sunday. At least 3 things that we could do collectively to support one another, love one another, and make and create the conditions. And I just had this conversation with Beloved yesterday. How can we create the condition for things to flourish? Instead of saying we could be doing this, we should be doing this, we would be doing this, let us focus on what conditions need to be present for this thing to live. And then let's talk about that next week. Okay? I love y'all. I absolutely love y'all. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Okay, I'm going to start writing my stuff down. And don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. I'm not saying that we're going to be able to do anything, do all of them, but you wouldn't know. Like they say, closed mouths don't get fed. We won't know unless we ask for it. We won't know. If that thing just stays in your throat and doesn't get created and asked for, how are we going to know if it's possible? How are we going to know? Okay, next Sunday, we'll start with that and then we'll move into what did I call it? What you going to do with all that information, May? Okay. I love y'all. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Be good to yourself for the rest of the week. Be good to others. Be good to the collective consciousness because we need one another. I love y'all. Bye. Bye, Instagram.